We begin the Gemara today on Daf Kuf Mem Zayin Amud Beis, 8 lines up from the bottom of the Amud where it says Omar Rave, Omar Rav Nachman. Okay, so the Gemara continues halachas regarding a shchiv mira, a person that's ill on his deathbed, and he's saying that he wants to give away his properties to people, and Chachamim instituted, or some say it's min haTorah, that what you say takes effect even without any kinyan, and the person that receives from you is mamish like a Yerush. It becomes theirs, like mamish like they're inheriting it from you. Chachamim made this something very strong, like a Yerusha min haTorah. Kuf Mem Zayin Amud Beis, you got it? 8 lines up from the bottom of the Amud. Omar Rav Nachman shchiv mira she'oma. Shchiv mira, he says, Yoder ploini bebayzeh. So and so should live in this house of mine. Yecha ploini peiris dekolzeh. And so and so should be eating the fruits of my palm tree. Lo yamaklum. What he said does not take effect at all, because he's not saying that he's giving him anything. He's just telling him what to do. Do this, do that. So you're not giving him anything actual. So it doesn't take effect at all. Until he actually says, Tnu baye, give him this house, or and v'yada can live in it. Tnu dekel zelaplaini v'yechal pereiso, or give him this palm tree and he'll eat the fruits. So over here, this is an actual davar shabal olam. This is the thing itself. You're telling him this is what you're giving, and therefore it takes effect. So basically, we see here that there is just like by a healthy person that gives a gift, you have to give something specific, and then the gift takes effect. It's no different by a shchiv mira. Says the Gemara, "Lememra shall we say the Savar Rav Nachman milsa d'isa b'bari isa b'shchiv mira." Whatever could be done, and whatever you can give as a gift when you're a healthy person, it's the same also by a shchiv mira. But the less of a body. But whatever you say, and it's not going to take effect as a gift by a healthy person, so less of a shchiv mira. By a dying person, it also won't take effect. In other words, what the Gemara is saying is that Rav Nachman is basically saying that even though Chachamim said that by a shchiv mira you don't have to make an actual kinyan in order for it to take effect, that Taka Chachamim, that's what they instituted. But what you say and how you give it is the same like by a healthy person. But the Gemara asks on this, Rav Nachman, but we know that Rav also said in the name of Rav Nachman is something different. He said, let's follow. Shchiv mira, she'amat tnuah v'asi l'ploini, a dying person that says, give this loan that I'm owed to someone else, that so-and-so should be able to collect the loan instead of me. So halvasi l'ploini. So just by saying that you're giving away this loan to someone else, he could collect it, it takes effect. And now, what's the question? V'afagav d'lesi b'bari. Even though by a healthy person this does not work. You can only sell a loan to someone else if you have a document of a loan, a shtar choiv, and then you sell that document which gives the rights of collection to someone else. We had it in the Gemara before. And even in that case, the Gemara actually said that the seller could be meichelit. But a milval pet, just stam alone with no document to say that I'm giving away this rights of collection to someone else. Doesn't take effect, but by shchiv mira it does. So we see that by shchiv mira, it's not only the point that you can give without a kinyan, but you can even give things that are not here actually, not a tangible thing, even though by a healthy person you can't. Okay, so the Gemara gives 2 answers. Rav Papa says one answer, Hoyel v'yoyrish yersha, that the reason why it works here when you want to give someone else the rights to collect a loan is because for inheritance. If a person dies and someone owed him money, could the children go and collect that loan? Yes. The children inherit the rights to collect that loan. The kayach of a shchiv mira, when you give a gift as a dying person, the person that receives that gift is like a person that's a yerush, like someone that inherits. That's the point the Gemara said before, asua kishal taira, that it's just as powerful as someone that inherits, and therefore is going to inherit this.
Does the yerush have to have a shtar?
No shtar.
The father had to have the shtar.
No, does not. No. When someone owes you money, do you need a shtar that he owes you money? If the person's going to deny it, then you may be in trouble. But to collect the loan, if you're dealing with 2 honest people, you don't need a shtar to collect the loan. So just like by a loan, the child inherits it. The same thing by a shchiv mira, the matana of a shchiv mira is as powerful as Yerusha. So therefore you can inherit this loan. Another teretz, Rav Acha ber Ravika Amar, hava isa b'bari. You do find such a concept that you can give to someone the rights to collect your loan even without there being a shtar. Now, when is that? If you say to someone that you owe me a money, and then you say in the presence of 3 people, this is what's called maimet shloshtan, but maimet shloshtan kana, that if you say in the presence of 3 people that instead of me collecting the loan, give this loan, someone else has the rights to collect it, kana takes effect. So what do you see? Now this is a Takanas Chachamim. The Gemara brought before this thing. This is a halacha Chachamim instituted in order to make business dealings easier. So Chachamim instituted this, that it should take effect without a kinyan. The Gemara before actually called this a hilchase beloy taime, because there's no actual kinyan here and there's no physical shtar, but nevertheless it takes effect. So because we find that such a concept exists by a body, even though by a body it's dafke b'mayim mitshloshtan, but there has to be 3 people present. But we find this concept by a body, so therefore it can take effect by a shchiv mirah as well. But in the case before that Rav Nachman was talking about, just to come and tell someone when you're dying that, go live in my house, eat from my fruits, that's not a language that's used b'chlal as a matana. It doesn't work by a body, and it doesn't work by a shchiv mirah as well. Okay, so the Gemara Vaiti Bayaluhu, the Shaila was asked. Okay, now before we see this Gemara, regarding this Gemara here, there's Rashbam's Pshat, there's Taisvis and most Rishonim's Pshat. I'm going to learn the Gemara according to the Pshat of Taisvis and most of the Rishonim, which is more simple. And the Rashbam also references, he mentions this Pshat, but he doesn't hold of this Pshat. But it's the more simple Pshat that most Rishonim agree to. So we're going to go with this Pshat. Okay, now when we're finished the Indian, I'll mention Bekitzer what the Rashbam's Pshat in the Sugya here is. So what was the Shaila here? Dekkel echad u'pereisav la'acher. So because the Gemara brought up before that you can't just give fruits to someone when there's no fruits here in the world. You just say, you can go and eat my fruits. It doesn't, there's no kinyan that takes effect. Right? Whenever you give a gift, you have to give something specific. Even for example, if you want to give someone fruits, how could you give someone fruits if the fruits don't exist yet? So the way you give fruits as a gift, if it doesn't exist yet, is you have to give dekel lipereisav. You say to him, I'm giving you this palm tree for the fruits that will grow from it. So you're actually giving him an aspect of the palm tree. The palm tree that produces the fruits, but not the wood, not the actual palm tree itself. Right, so then it takes effect. But so now the shaila is as follows. If a person says, and this is a healthy person or shchiv mirah, he says, dekel echad, he's giving a gift, the palm tree itself, to one person. Now, upereisav la'acher, but he wants to give the fruits to someone else. So the question is, could he give the fruits to someone else? The fruits themselves did not grow yet, they're not here. So could he give just the fruits itself to someone else? Mahu. What's the halacha? Do I say, mishir makim peri? Do I say that even though he already gave away the actual tree itself to one person, so now how could he give just the fruits to someone else which don't even exist yet? But I could say, no, shir makim peri. What that means is, when he gave the palm tree to the first person, he gave him the wood of the palm tree, the actual physical palm tree. But the koyach of the palm tree, the aspect of the palm tree that produces the fruits, that he left over, that he didn't give. So therefore, when he gives the fruits to a second person, I say that he's not just giving him the fruits, he's giving him the aspect of the palm tree, the part of the palm tree that produces the fruits. And therefore, he could give those fruits to the second person. Or I say no, once he gave the actual tree to one person, now he wants to give the fruits to someone else, it's not going to work, because he's giving him just fruits. If you're giving one person a gift, and you're telling him, I'm giving you dekel pereisa, I'm giving you the palm tree for the fruits, okay, so then he gets it. But over here, you already gave away the palm tree to one person, so you can't give the fruits to someone else. Now, if you're going to say la'acher, that when you're giving it to someone else, lo have a shiur, that you didn't leave him any space in the tree itself to give him fruits from this tree, but how about la'atzmai, for yourself? Here in the Gemara it says chutz mi pereisav, but according to Taisvis, this pshat, we take out the words chutz mi pereisav. So la'atzmai, if a person is giving someone else, he's giving him away the whole tree, and he's leaving over just the fruits for himself. The question is, could he do that? Could he leave over just the fruits which don't even exist here? He's telling the other person, I'm giving you away the entire tree. The tree is all yours. But he wants to keep the fruits for himself. But the fruits that he wants to keep for himself don't even exist yet. So what exactly is he saying that he's keeping here? If he's giving away the whole tree, how is he keeping the fruits for himself? This is an interesting concept. Because it's not only when you give away, even when you want to keep for yourself, you could only keep for yourself an aspect of the tree if it's something that exists. If it's something that doesn't exist yet in the tree, so you can't come and say about something which is thin air, which is not here yet, that you're keeping this for yourself. So regarding for yourself, la'atzmai, do you say that you can keep the fruits in such a case when you're giving away the palm tree for someone else? That's a shaila.
The tree is toiled, the fruits are koyach, right?
Yeah.
So how can you give away a tree and meaning you didn't give away anything. If you're saying the fruits are mine...
No, there is the physical tree itself, whether it's going to produce fruits or not.
No, you didn't give them nothing.
Yeah, well, there's the wood. You can use it, you can cut it, use it as firewood.
Oh,
Yeah, whatever, yeah. There's the wood itself of the tree. Okay, so the Gemara answers and says, Omar Rav Nachman, the answer to this is, even if you're going to say that in the first Ibaya, when you're giving the palm tree to one person and you're giving the fruits to someone else, loy have a shear, so over here, you can't give the fruits to another person because you already gave away the tree to the first person, so now you can't just give them the fruits alone. They don't exist in the world yet. So even if that's true when you give a gift to someone else, however, Mokem peri dekel le'echod, v'shaya pereisav lefanov, if you're giving a person, again, how do I read this? Okay, let's make sure I'm reading it right. Loi have a shear, mokem peri. Yeah, okay, that's how you read it. Sorry, let me go back a second. Imtim tzeloima dekel le'echod u'pereisav la'acher. Loi have a shear, mokem peri, that when you're giving the palm tree to one person and the fruits to another person. So I do not say that you left over room for those peiris for the second person. But dekel le'echod v'shir peireisav lefanov. But in a case where you're giving the palm tree to someone and you want to leave the peiris for yourself, over here I say shir mokem peri. Over here, when you're leaving the peiris for yourself, you could. You are leaving an aspect of the tree for yourself. Over here we say it's not just the fruits that don't exist. You actually are leaving an aspect of the tree which is going to produce the fruits for yourself. Now, why is there this distinction? My time, because kol gabel nafshei, whenever a person wants to keep something for himself, so then I say ba'ayin yofa mishayir. So then he's doing this with a generous eye. He wants to leave over for himself an aspect of the tree that is going to be his, and therefore he can leave those peiros for himself. When you're giving, however, a gift to two people, and you're giving to one person the tree and another person the peiros, so you're not doing this with a generous eye. When you give the one person the tree, you're giving him the tree fully, the whole tree is his. Now you want to give the other person the fact that it produces fruits, but the fruits are separately for itself, don't exist yet. You can't give it just the fruits itself. Okay, so therefore there's a difference if it's leaving for yourself or trying to give it to another person. Now, Amalei.
What's being said over here that if there's no fruits yet,
that's what we're talking about, right? There's no fruits yet.
The person's not really getting anything because the fruits aren't in the world yet.
But if he wants to leave it for himself, that's the chiddush of the Gemara. If he wants to leave it for himself, then we say that he's leaving for himself an aspect of the tree itself that will produce the fruits, and therefore he could keep it for himself.
Even though we learned before, call a nation by your nation.
Yeah, true, but not Legabe this thing. When you're giving two different people. That's when you're giving to one person. Here you're giving to two different people. Once you already gave him the dekel, so you gave him the dekel. So we learned a similar concept regarding a different case. Regarding what Rab Shimon ben Lakish said, and this we had earlier in the Masechta. Rab Shimon ben Lakish, you sell a house to your friend. And you told your friend that when you're selling him this house, on condition that the top floor will be mine. So in such a case, the top floor will be yours. Now over here, really the chiddush of this case, what Rab Shimon ben Lakish says is, when you sell a house, even without spelling out al manas that the top floor is yours, today you sell a house, you're selling the whole house. But in those times when you sell a house, it's understood that the house does not include the top floor. So you really don't have to say al manas that the top floor is mine. When you're adding al manas that the top floor should be yours, what do you really mean to add by that? That you sold a person the house with the courtyard that's around it. And if the courtyard is going to belong now to the buyer of the house, and you're going to have the top floor, but you don't have any right to put out any ledges or anything to stick out from your top floor over his courtyard. It's his airspace, it's his courtyard. But when you add al menas, you spell out clearly that the top floor will be mine. Why are you saying that? In order to give yourself the right that you can use the top floor. If you want to hang out things, you want to hang your towels or whatever it is you want to hang out there, that you'll be allowed to do that. That's the halacha that Rab Shimon ben Lakish said. Now it's regarding this that the Ibaya was, similar to Ibaya that we had asked before, Ibaya luhu, so the Shaila was, Bayis le'echad. If you're selling the bottom floor of the house to one person, V'diyut le'echad, and the top floor to someone else. So mahu, what's the understanding of this kind of a sale? Do I say, mi have a shir? Do I say that this is considered to be that for the one that you sold the top floor, you're actually giving him the rights, not only for the top floor, but for the top floor, and for the rights that he can now stick out things into the courtyard of the person that owns the bottom floor. Or perhaps no, you're not giving him those rights. When you're selling the top floor to another person, he's just getting the top floor. but he cannot stick out anything over the property of the person that lives in the bottom floor. Now, so the Rishonim over here explained, there's something that's really missing here in the Lashon of the Gemara, that what the Shaila of the Gemara is based on is, just like before, as I explained, the person added and specified, al menas, that the top floor should be mine. He didn't have to add that. It's self-understood that the top floor is his, because he only sold the bottom floor. But then he went and added, al menas, that the top floor is mine. It's the same thing over here. The Gemara is now asking, when you're selling the bottom house to one person and the top floor to the other person. You can sell the house, and you sell the house to one person, and then you sell the top floor to another person. But over here, the Gemara is asking the Shaila when he used a similar language. When he sold the house to the guy that's going to get the bottom floor, he tells him, al menas, that the top floor is going to be sold to someone else, which is also extra. Wasn't necessary to say that. So do I say that when he's selling the bottom floor to one person and the top floor to another person, that I say the same thing, that now the person that's going to buy the top floor is going to have the right, not just for the floor itself, but also to stick out things over the courtyard. Now, then, buys lechet v'dyuta. But now, if you're going to say that in such a case, when you sell the house to one person and the top floor to another person, lo yavashiyor, it's not going to be considered that you're giving an extra right to the top person to not only get the top floor, but also to be able to stick out things into the courtyard. Over there, it's when you sell to two different people, the bottom floor gets the bottom floor, the top floor gets the top floor, v'zehu, not more. Now, how about chutz midiyuta mahu? How about if it's for yourself? You want to leave the top floor for yourself, and you use the expression of chutz midiyuta. What the Gemara means by this is, before the Shlakish said a case where you used a stronger expression. The person used the expression of al menas. Al menas is you're saying, I'm selling you this bottom floor conditionally. When you use that term conditionally, so then it's understood that the sale of the bottom floor is incomplete. Why? Because you're sort of taking away the rights of the person owning the bottom floor that he has in the courtyard, that you're going to be able to stick out your things into his courtyard. But when you use the term chutz, it's not as strong as a lashon. So the question is, do I say that you're giving yourself the rights to get the top floor and also for the protrusions to be able to go out into his courtyard? And on this, Amar Rav Nachman, even if you're going to say that when you're selling the bottom floor to one person and the top floor to another person, and you use that term of al menas, but nevertheless we say lo yavashir. What you sold to one person is fully sold, the bottom floor and the courtyard is fully his, and the top floor belongs to the person that's going to get the top floor, but he can't stick out anything into the bottom person's property. However, chutz midiyuta, when you want to keep it for yourself, and you use the term chutz, even though you didn't say al menas, you didn't specify that it's only conditional, but nevertheless, have a shear, you are leaving for yourself the right to stick out things into his courtyard. And the reason is, that, as the Gemara explained before, because what you do for yourself, when you leave for yourself, we say that you want to leave yourself this right. And now here, the Gemara explains, the way I explained the Gemara till now, at this point, the whole entire discussion over here is regarding the rights that you would have to stick out things into his courtyard. And Baliba de Rav Zvid, this is all according to the way Rav Zvid explained what Reish Lakish said. The Amar, Rav Zvid explains, the whole point of here is that you're giving yourself the right that you're not only going to now own the top floor, but you can now stick out things, hang your towels or whatever it is over his property. So Alma, even the Shire, the Yuta, Mokim Zizan Nami Shire. When you're adding that chutz, not only al manas, but when you're saying chutz, you're keeping it for yourself to give yourself the right to stick out zizan, ledges or protrusions into the courtyard of the person that owns the bottom floor. Okay, this is the pshat of the Gemara, according to the Taisvis, most of the Rishonim. Now, the only issue that the Rashbam has with this pshat is, it's a pretty smooth pshat in the Gemara. The problem with this pshat is that it seems to be like a discussion that really has nothing to do with the subject of our Perek, that is discussing a shchiv mirah. It only comes up a derech hagav because it mentioned before, dekel, peiris, but it's really a subject that has nothing to do with anything here. So if the Rashbam says that really this Gemara is discussing a whole different inyan, and just in a kuda, the point of the Rashbam's pshat in this Gemara is, it's based on the Mishnah before. Before the Mishnah said, when a shchiv mirah gives a gift, so then what happens if he doesn't end up dying? He recovers. If he gave everything away, then we say that he can take it back, because he only gave it away, he thought he was going to die. If he kept something for himself, so that means he was thinking, maybe I'm going to recover, therefore he's keeping for himself. So then he can't go back on the matana that he gave. So according to the Rashbam, the boy of the Gemara over here, when it says Dekel Echad Peroisav La'achir, is talking about a shchiv mirah. that's giving away everything. He's giving away this palm tree that he owns. And he gave the palm tree to one person and he gave the paytas to another person. What the Gemara wants to know is, should I consider this to be a case where he did leave something for himself? Why? Because maybe when he gave the palm tree to one person, he told him, I'm just giving you the wood of the palm tree. The fruits are not yours. Then he comes to the other person and he says, this is a shchivmera we're talking about. And for the other person, he says, for you, I'm giving the paytas. So now maybe there's room to say that the branches where the paytas grow on, that he was really keeping for himself. There's the actual wood of the palm tree that he gave to one person, and then there's the paytas that he gave to the other person. But because he's not giving the paytas to the first person, he's giving the paytas to the second person. Where do the paytas actually grow? They don't grow on the tree itself. They grow on branches. So maybe the makim of the paytas, where the branches, where the paytas grow, that he did keep for himself. So therefore, maybe if he kept something for himself, and this is a matan of a shchivmira, if he would recover, he can't have charata. Because the rule by shchivmira is whenever he keeps something for himself, he can't take it back afterwards. Or do I say no? When he gave the palm tree for one person and he gave the paytas for another person, he gave it all away. To him, the entire palm tree, to him, all the paytas, including the branches where the paytas grow. So he kept nothing for himself. So this is a kind of matan of shchivmira where he kept nothing for himself, and if he would recover, then he can't. So then, in such a case, he could take it back for himself. He's able to take it back for himself. Again, let me just clarify. Again, if you say that he kept something for himself, so then he's not able to take back for himself if he recovers. But if he did not keep anything for himself, then he will be able to take back for himself if he recovers. That's the teichen of the Gemara according to the Rashbam. Okay, that's in a kudir. Okay, let's go to the next piece. Sagt the Gemara vayit Amar Rav Yosef bar men Yomi Amar Rav Nachman. Shchivmira she'amar, Shchivmira that says shekosav. He writes. He says, "Kol nochasav la'acherim." I'm giving all my properties to people. In other words, he has a bunch of properties, and he says, "For Reuven, I'm giving this property. For Shimon, I'm giving that." And he distributed all his properties to a bunch of people. So now, what happens over here in such a case? And now here, this is based on what we learned in the Mishnah, that if you leave anything for yourself, then if you recover, you can't retract from this. It's not bottled, this sale. This shchivmira is a gift. But if you don't leave anything for yourself, then it will be bottled if you recover. So now over here in this case, we see if this person he wanted to distribute everything, and he's distributing to a bunch of people. So then I say, if he dies, kana kulam. If he dies, they all get it. It's a matan of a shchivmira. Now Amad, if he recovers, chayzer, he's able to have charata from this entire matan of a shchivmira. Why? Because he gave it all away. And when by a shchivmira, when you give it all away, if you recover, you can take it back. That is, you can retract from everything. Now, if however I see that this person is thinking this over, and it's nimlach, meaning that l'chatchila he's giving one person just one field, and then he's not sure if he's going to give the other field to someone else. He doesn't know if he wants to give it all away, and then he's thinking. Then he changes his mind, says, "You know what? I'm going to give that away as well, and then I'm going to give." But it's not l'chatchila that he made up his mind that he wants to be mechalik everything. He's nimlach. He's giving and then changing his mind, and he decides, okay, I'm going to give even this away. Then I say, meis, if he dies, kana kulam. He gave it, so they all will acquire. But now, by omad, if he recovers, then ein chayzer ela ba'achrin. He won't be able to retract from the gift, only from the last one. Everything that he gave away before the last one, he still was keeping things for himself. So that's a matana of a shchivmira where there was a leftover for himself. That's something you can never retract from. But the last one that he gave away, he was giving away the last thing that has nothing left. That's something that he's able to retract if he recovers. Okay, but the Gemara asks on this, how do we make such a distinction? When you see a person was thinking, but how do you know? Well, how do you know what he was thinking about? Maybe the reason why he's giving slow and he's thinking this over is because he's not sure which property I'm giving to Reuven, which property I'm giving to Shimon. He's trying to make up his mind what property is going to go to whom. That's why he was thinking this over, not because he l'chatchila first only wanted to give part, and then he changed his mind and he wanted to give another part. And says the Gemara, no, that's not the nature of a shchivmira. The stamid, the shchivmira, usually by shchivmira, medek daik v'hada yav. He first looks into his properties and knows exactly what he has and who he wants to give it to. And therefore the fact that he stopped in between, the only way to explain the fact that he stopped in between is because he only wanted to give to one person one property. And only later he changed his mind and decided to give a new gift to another person. But to say that he l'chatchila wanted to give to everyone, and he just wasn't sure what he wants to give to whom, that we don't say by shchivmira. Shchivmira usually thinks in advance about such things. Sagt the Gemara, another halacha, Amar Rav Acha b'Amiyemi, Amar Rav Nachman, Shchiv Mirah shekasav kol nechasav la'acherim, a Shchiv Mirah that writes and he's giving away all his properties to people. Again, he's distributing, he's giving his properties, this to this person, this to this person. He gave everything away. And v'amad, and then he recovered, ein chayzer, even though he gave it all away, and he gave it all away right away. You see that he wanted to give everything away. Nevertheless, he cannot retract from this matana when he recovers. Why not? Didn't we say if he gives everything away, he could retract? Says the Gemara Chashinon, because no, we're concerned. Maybe there's somewhere in a different country that he still kept something for himself, and we don't know about it, and therefore it's not a full matna shchiv mirah. He could retract this. If this is the halacha, so masnisin diktani loishir karka kolshu emat nosa kayemes, that if he did not leave anything over for himself, so then if he recovers, then the matana does not stay and he can retract from this. What's the Mishnah talking about? Why aren't we concerned that maybe he owns something in a different country? And says the Gemara, Amar Rav Chama says, but Omer kol nechosai. The Mishnah is a different case. The Mishnah is when the person writes a shtar and he writes as a shchimera and he writes clearly, whatever I own, kol nechosai, I'm giving away. That includes whatever is in any other country. The statement here that Rav Acha bar Miyumi was saying was, in a case where we see the person distributed, he gave away everything that we know of. You said, Reuven get this, Shimon get this. So whatever we know, we see that he gave away. That would concern maybe he owns something somewhere else. But if he clearly writes, Kol Nechasai, that includes everything. So then if he recovers, he's going to be able to retract from this. Another answer, Ma'bar Ravashi says that our Mishnah is speaking about a case, B'muchsik Landalesle. We know what this person owns, what he doesn't. There's a chazaka about this. We know he doesn't own anything else, and therefore there's no reason to be concerned about this. Ibayeluhu, and Ibaye was asked regarding the matana of a shchiv mirah. Chazare b'miktsas. If a person gives a matana of a shchiv mirah to one person, he gives him everything away. But now he retracts part of it. And now he wants to give to someone else part of what he gave to the first person. And you're able to do this. This is something the Gemara says later by Shchiv Mirah, even though he wrote he's giving everything away to one, but later on he wants to write another shtar and give part of it to someone else. The second gift undoes the first. But the question is, to what degree does it undo it? Do I say, have a chazara b'kula? Now that he says that he wants to give away some of it to someone else, do I say that basically means that he's taking back the entire first gift that he gave to one person, and now he's only giving part of the gift to a second person? Or no, he's not taking back what he gave for the first person entirely. He's taking back a little bit. He gave the first person, and now a little bit of it he wants to give to the second person, but besides that little amount, the rest remains by the first person. That's the Ibaya. Now, the relevance of this Ibaya is not only benigea to whether the first person still gets anything. That's the first point here. The Gemara wants to know, does the first person still get anything? But the other Ibaya is, what if this person never dies? And in this case, he didn't die. He recovered. So the halacha is that he could only retract if he gave it all away. So if you're going to say that he never undid what he gave to the first person, so he did give everything away. So he's going to be able to retract. But if you're going to say that once he gives miktsas, a little bit, to the second person, so now what he gave to the first person was undone, it's that he's mevatel that, so now you only gave away a little bit of his property. He's keeping for himself. So if he recovers, he will not be able to retract from this. Says the Gemara, seemingly this is a clear braisa. Toshama, the braisa says, in a case where a person says, kulon l'rishon, I'm giving it all away to one person. And then afterwards he says, miktasan, a little bit of it he gives away, l'sheni, to someone else. So the Braisa says, Sheni Kana, the second one gets this gift of the Shchiv Mirah, and Rishon LeKana, the first one doesn't get anything. So this is this case that we're talking about. So my love, don't you think, what is this Braisa coming to say? B'Shemeis, this person died, and what it's saying is that when he died, because he gave away a little bit to the second person, so he's retracting from the first person, and the first one gets nothing. Says the Gemara, Loi, that's not what this Braisa is saying. Rather, what it's saying is, Besha Omad, when this person recovered, when this person never died, in this case, and therefore what happens over here? So in such a case, we say that the sheni, when it says here sheni kana, the reason why the sheni is kana because he gave the second person only a little bit, and therefore if you give only a little, so therefore the little that you gave him, that's a matana of a shchiv mirah that you're able to have charata from. But the rishain like kana, because the rishain you gave him away everything, so therefore that's a kind of matana that when you get up, you're going to be able to retract. Again, the sheni, because you gave him a little bit of a gift, so b'shas you are going to recover, that's something that you're not able to retract. But Rishon, you are going to be able to retract from that because you gave him the gift fully. That's what it's talking about over here. Okay, so in other words, the Gemara is saying that we could still say that in such a case, when you gave first the whole thing to one person and then a little bit to the second person, that what you tried to do, what you did over here is not going to be a full chazara from the first person. It's what you gave to the first person stays, and then you're giving a little bit to the second person. So the Gemara says, it's logical to say that this Braisa is talking about when this person recovered, not when he died now. Why? Because in the Seifa of this Braisa, it speaks about an opposite case. When you give a little bit of the gift for a first person, you give a little bit of your properties to one person, and then the kula l'sheni, and then you come and say, I want to give it all away to a second person. So here the Braisa says, Rishon kana. The first one is the one that's going to acquire, and sheni loikana. And the second one will not get. So the question is, why is that so? If you're going to say the case over here is that this person did not die, he recovered, so then mishum hachi, that's it. Now you can explain why sheni loikana, why the second one does not get, because the rule is when you recover, if you gave it all away, so then you can retract. So because to the sheni he gave it all away, so the sheni doesn't get it. But for the rishon, because he only gave miktsas, and you recovered, so if you only give miktsas and you recover, you're able to take it back. So then what the Braisa says makes sense. But but if the case over here is that this person did die, then tarvayu likni. So then both of them should get what he gave them. If you gave a little bit to the first person, and then he gave the rest to the second person, and you're going to say that whatever you gave to the second person, he's not retracting from the first. Whatever you gave to the first, he gave to the first. And then he gave another gift to the second person and he died. Why don't they both get it? Why would the Braisa say that in such a case that the sheni is loikana? Why not? Okay, so therefore the Gemara now concludes that it makes sense to say that in such a case the chazara b'miktsas, if a person has is chayzer b'miktsas, then it's not a chazara on the whole thing. That's what the Gemara is trying to conclude over here. If you give one person a gift as a shchiv mirah, and then you want to give to a second person a little bit of it, you're not having charata from what you gave the first person. But the Gemara now asks on this, and here the Gemara goes back again to the ratio of this braisa. Again, what was the case of the ratio of this braisa? First, you gave it entirely to one person, and then you gave a little bit to the second person. And now the Gemara wants to explain that what that means is what you gave to the first person stays, but now a little bit will be for the second person. And in such a case, the Gemara said that if you're going to stand up, if the person recovers, what happens? That the matana for the first person you cannot retract, and the matana from the second person you could. But on this Gemara asks, even if the case over here is that this person recovered, but it does not make sense because if you're going to say chazara b'miktsas, havya chazara b'kula, that once you give a little bit away to a second person, that undoes completely the gift that you gave to the first person. Hainu the sheni miyaskana. That will explain why the little bit of the gift that you gave to the second person, if you recover, then you're able to retract from this. And the reason is because you didn't give all your properties away. What you gave to the first person is batal. If you gave the first person everything, but that's batal. And now you gave a little bit to the second person, it's only a little. So therefore, if you recover, therefore you can take that back. Now, but if you're going to say that when you gave it all to the first person, and then you gave a little to the second, so what you gave to the first is never undone, that remains. So if so, in such a case, bekula, again, so then heavy kemachalik. So why isn't it? So you still gave it all away, and it's like you're a machalik. What was the example the Gemara said before about machalik? When you're distributing, when you're giving it all away, you're giving some to one, some to another, but you're giving it all away, and therefore so in such a case, if the person recovers, nobody should get anything because in such a case he gave it all away. So how can we explain that? This braisa holds that chazara b'miktsas is not a chazara, and then that would explain why when you gave to the second person a little bit, that when you get up but the person did not die, then you could have charat from that. Why not? He gave it all away. He gave to the first person, he gave it to the second person. So therefore the Gemara concludes v'hilchase, because of this braisa, the halacha is chazara b'miktsas avya chazara. If a person gives to one, and then he changes his mind, and he gives a little to the second. When he changes his mind and gives a little to the second, what that means is he's undoing what he gave to the first person. He's having charata from that completely. Havi chazara bekula. He's retracting the whole entire gift that he gave to the first person. And therefore, going back to the Pshat of the Braisa, in the Reisha of the Braisa, that it says that he first gave it all to the first person, and then he gave a little bit to the second person, right? And the Braisa said that regarding the second person, so that you can't have charata from, but from the first person, is not kaina. So Reisha mishkachas la ben shemeis ben she'amad. When the Reisha says that the first person is not kaina and the second person is kaina, that's whether you died, whether this person did die, or whether this person recovered. Because when you die, the halacha is that the first person gets nothing because you retracted, you took it back. Now you're giving it to the second person. And ben she'amad, when the person recovers, so then in such a case, the matana that you're giving to the second person will stay in effect, and the reason is because you only gave him a little. And any time a shchiv merah gives matana only a little, and then he recovers, you could always retract from that. So that's the reisha of the Braisa. Seifa, then in the Seifa of the Braisa, where it says the opposite case, when the person gave a little bit to the first person, and then he gave it all to the second person, and over here, what did the reisha of the Braisa say? That the second person is not kaina, le'mishkachas la ela k'sha'amad. So that's only in a case where the first, where the person recovered. So in a case where the person recovered, so because he didn't give it all away, so then I say that that he's going to be able to retract this.
He didn't give it all away.
No. In this case of Miktsasan, again, the case is the Seifa. What's the Seifa? Miktsasan l'rishain, and then he gave Kulan l'sheni. So Rishain, again, so I'm sorry, let me just explain this again. Rishain kana, Sheni loy kana. Oh, so the pshat over here is that he gave it all away. Sorry, yeah, right, thank you for the correction. He gave it all away. Because he gave it all away, so therefore, if he's going to recover, so then he's going to be able to retract. Because that's always the halacha. Shchiv merah that gives it all away is able to retract from what he gave. That's the seifa of this Braisa. Okay, let's see one more thing over here. Another Ibaya. The Gemara says, Ibaya lohu, the Shaila was asked, Hiktish kol nechasav v'omad. A person was makdish, all of his nechasim. So till now we're talking about a person that gives a gift, and he gave it all away. So when you give it all away, and then the person recovers, he's able to take it back. Because he only gave it away because he thought he's not going to survive. Now the question is, if he's makdish, if he's giving it to hektish, mahu. What's the halacha here? Mi amrina, do I say, kol legabe hektish gomer makni. If you're giving it away to hektish, that I say a person gave it away with a full heart. He's giving it as a mitzvah. He's giving it a tzedakah, a hektish. So there, even if he ends up recovering, he doesn't have the kayach to take this back. Oidilme, or no, call legabe nafshei legomer makni. So anything that it's negay for himself, that he's going to need it if he recovers. He needs to have this to be able to live. So even though he did a mitzvah and he gave it all to hektish, we say that if he recovers, he still wants to be able to take it back. A similar shaila, hivka kol nechasav, a person that declares all of his properties to be hefker, everything. And now the person recovered from this. He didn't die. Mahu, what do I say here? Do I say, Kivan the afla aniyim kashirim gomer makni? Since he declared it all hefker, that means that poor people, rich people, anybody can go and take it. So that means that he's showing that he's not interested in it at all anymore. Or also the svara that I said before, that he's like giving basically tzedakah, he's giving it all away hefker. So then that's a mitzvah that he's doing. So even if he recovers, he cannot take it back. Or no, I still say kol gabi nafshei, since he still would need it for himself. If he recovers, he still needs it. Like gomer makni. If he recovers, he did not make up his mind that it should be given away. Now, third case, chiluk kol nechasav la'aniyim. Here, if it's a case where he's clearly doing the mitzvah of tzedakah, he's distributing all of his money for poor people. So what do I say here in this case if he recovered? Mi amrin, do I say tzedakah vade migma gama makni? Since he's giving it all to tzedakah, a person gives tzedakah, he doesn't want to take back tzedakah. So even if he recovers, we say that tzedakah is given. Or perhaps I say kol legabi nafshei, that anything that a person is giving away, but he's giving it all away, and it's negay for himself. If he's going to recover, lo gomer makni, he's not making up his mind that he's giving it all away. Teiku, the Gemara does not resolve all of these ibayas. Now there's a lishna achrina here that basically means the same ibayas that the Gemara just said without the details, without the reasoning that the Gemara just said. Okay.